I've been knitting for the past 5 years now, and I guess it's safe to say that not every knitting project is a success, and somehow I ended with not one, but 2 files of failed projects. So today I'm sharing all the projects that didn't quite go to plan. Hi and welcome, my name is Luisa, but everybody calls me Lu. And a couple of weeks ago I released a video talking about all my failed knitting tools, all the notions that I regret buying and what I like to use instead. So I thought it would be nice to keep the theme going and talk about all my failed projects today. So that's what we are doing today. Because knitting life isn't always like the pattern photos, right? Oh my god, that was terrible. Anyway, let me get all my projects situated and let's do this. Everything is in order, at least for now, I guess, and I have lots of projects to talk about today. I have sweaters, socks, hats, shawls, there's even a blanket. So let's start with one of the sweaters, and the first one I'm going to share with you today is this Salty Day sweater by Veronika Lindberg. And if I'm being completely honest, this is my Salty Day sweater. It was so bad that I've already frogged it, and I have my main yarn and the mohair. This is not technically mohair. This is Cameron's Midnight Soul, is a wonderful, in my opinion, mohair alternative. This is alpaca, and my main yarn is Sunday's Yarn Double Sunday. This is what I originally used to knit my Salty Day sweater, and this is a second one that I've knitted for a friend of mine that I asked to borrow for a few days just to have something to show you guys. Mistakes. Today is all about the mistakes that I've made. First of all, let me show you the back panel. This is a top-down construction with a dropped shoulder, and you first cast on stitches for the back here and increase to get this trapezoid shape, to place our stitches on hold, to knit the front, all of that same thing we've already know. This sort of like raglan diagonal here, that it's not raglan, but anyway, this diagonal here, when I knitted my sample, it was so tight. You increased on every row, I guess, I don't remember the pattern exactly now, but I think you increase on every row, and my edge here of the back panel was so tight that I couldn't move my arms at all, that I was afraid of breaking my yarn. And also I knitted a size too small, or maybe 2 sizes smaller than what I should have. It was a complete disaster. I should have gone up a size on the sleeves also, and it was a whole thing. So I have plans of recasting on this project, I guess, and I'm going to use the same yarn. I love this yarn combo, and I'm going to cast this on again. I don't know when, hopefully this year, but we'll see. But I will make my sweaters, my Salty Day sweater work. That I'm sure of. Let me put this one here in my basket. So now let's go to the second project. And this one is what I call my Rico shawl. There's no pattern that I followed. I came up with this shawl. This thing is enormous, by the way. It's 2 meters long. And I've knitted this after I bought, 6 different mohair colorways from my local yarn shop, and I didn't know what to do with. This was one of the first things that I knitted once I really got into knitting. This is just a garter stitch shawl. Nothing really, out of the ordinary, I guess. It's just a giant rectangle that I don't even think it fits the screen. But anyway, and I think you can already see the problem. So I first cast on using this beige pink colorway, and I bound off using this light green or blue colorway. And here's the thing, my bind off has no stretch, 0 stretch. I just bound off in pattern, and this is garter stitch. So now that I'm thinking about it, I think I followed a pattern. I think I followed one of those patterns that come on the other side of the bow band from one of the mohair yarns that I've bought. I think that's what I did. This is the problem. My bound off here has no stretch, and the cast on edge has so much that when I wear it, let me see if I can show you. When I wear this thing, see? See what I'm talking about? One of the sides is 2 meters long and the other is like 2.5 meters. I still wear this, alright, because this is an all over mohair. This stuff is expensive. And I think it's quite cute. When I wear this, I just come up with different ways to wear and hide the tightness situation going on here. But see what I mean? So this is my cast on edge, and here is the bind off edge. This is my second failed project. This is going to the basket, and the third one is, oh, this one is quite funny. When I first started knitting, I used to follow a lot of video tutorials on YouTube on how to knit a raglan sweater, drop shoulder sweater, and all of that. And one time I saw a really cute pair of socks, a tutorial for a pair of socks, and I decided to follow. I don't count this as my first ever pair of socks because this is terrible. I had no idea what I was doing. So again, this has no pattern. I don't even remember the video that I watched at the time. It's been 5 years. The first problem, this is 100% cotton. Why? Don't know. Who am I to say why I chose a 100% cotton yarn to knit a pair of socks? Well, I guess I know. I had no idea what I was doing. I just went to my craft store and I bought a cute skein of yarn, went home and cast on my sock. So, first of all, this is 100% cotton. Do not recommend. It has no elasticity. The fit is terrible. And I guess the fit is also terrible because my socks have, well, they are not the same size. At the time, I thought I was using the same needles and all of that, and the same stitch counts and everything, but I guess I didn't because can you see? One sock has like 2 centimeters or 3 centimeters more than the other, and well, it has no elasticity, like I said. So this was a toe-up sock. It has 3 different sizes, and not only the foot circumference, but the foot length also. What did I do wrong? So many things that I don't even know where to begin, but I also don't know all the mistakes. But anyway, this was my first pair of socks, and they are really cute. I don't really like this purple section here, but I guess they're cute for a sort of like first pair of socks. This is my first attempt of knitting a sock, and this is also going to my failed basket. Now, this project is another sweater, and this one I finished a few months ago, I think February or March of this year, of 2025, and this is the Belle Sebastian Pullover by Sari Nordlund. It was on my closet, so it has some weird thing going on here, but this is the Belle Sebastian Pullover that I modified to have, I think I can call this satin sleeves, I don't know. The pattern originally is written for a dropped shoulder, but I didn't really... Well, I was looking for a satin sleeve, but I really liked the look of the Belle Sebastian Pullover, so I modified mine to have a satin sleeve construction. I don't know if this is really a satin sleeve or not, but anyway, I modified to make it look like this. I like the sweater, I like the construction, the modification I made, I like the length, the size and everything. What I don't like is the yarn. I used Gepard Garn Woollia in the colorway 106 Oat Grey and held single. This has no more hair or anything like that. It's just Gepard Garn Woollia held single, and it was my first time knitting with this yarn. And I don't know, it's funny, I think it's 100% merino wool, if I'm not mistaken. I'm almost certain it's 100% merino wool. but the yarn has it feels synthetic. The texture is funny. I don't know. I don't want to say it feels like acrylic because I have nothing against knitting with acrylic yarn. I don't like to wear acrylic yarn, but I have nothing against knitting with it. But I think there are many acrylic yarns out there that are softer than this yarn. I don't know, it feels funny to me. But it feels really synthetic. It feels a little, well, scratchy, I guess. And I've blocked this. I used lukewarm water and all of that, and it didn't make any difference. So yeah, I don't know. I still wear the sweater. I really like it. Yeah, I guess it's not really a failed project. I wish I had chosen a different yarn. But anyway, failed projects are sort of failed project basket. It is. Another project that I've already lost count. So this one is the flock sweater, which one is the flock sweater? Oh, yeah, I was looking for it in my bio here, but I don't have it anymore. I think I have a couple of pictures that I will add as a B-roll if I can manage to find them. I think it was my second sweater that I've ever knitted, and I've used 100% wool yarn. At the time, I really liked it. It was really cute with 2 different colors, 2 different panels, and a cute stitch pattern that I was just following a YouTube video on that sweater. It wasn't anything, the pattern didn't have a name or anything like that. If I can manage to find the video that I followed, the tutorial, I will link it down below, but I don't know, I will try it, but I don't know if I will be able to find it. But anyway, when I first finished that project, I really liked it. It came out quite cute. I did twisted ribbing on the cuff, hem, and also the collar. Not because I chose to, but because I picked up the wrong leg of the stitch, so I knitted all my stitches twisted without knowing I was doing so. I guess my mind chose to knit twisted rib, and I only found out that what I did was actually twisted rib a couple of years later. When I first finished the sweater, I tried it on, I took a few photos, and it was quite cute, like I said. And then I went out one day with the sweater, came back home, and I decided to wash it. So I put it in the washing machine, and it was 100% wool sweater. So when the sweater came out of the washing machine, it had shrunk to a kid size or a teenager size. And I got so mad. I thought, oh no, this yarn is terrible. What is happening? I lost almost all the stitch definition that I had, and the sweater is now like a kid size. What is going on? This yarn is terrible. I'm going to wash it again. And then when it came back from the washing machine a second time, it was now a, what, toddler size? I got so mad. I didn't know what was going on. I just couldn't wear it anymore. It was so small. I blamed it on the yarn, and I just left it in the back of my closet for a couple of years. And eventually I donated it because obviously I couldn't wear it. And it was just I think 2 or 3 years later that I was watching another podcast, knitting podcast on YouTube. And the girl was talking about a felted sweater that she wanted to knit and felt it, and she said it shrunk. And that was one of those light bulb moments, and I screamed. And I said, that's what happened with my sweater. I blocked my sweater. It was terrible. I couldn't believe that I had blocked that sweater, and it was, well, I was 100% to blame, but we live and we learn, right? So let's go to another project. Right, when I first started knitting, I wanted to gift my brother something, and I asked what he wanted for Christmas, and he said he wanted a Christmas sweater. So all over color work, all of those things. But this would be my second ever hand knitted sweater, and I wanted to do something really nice for him. At that time, I didn't know Ravelry existed. So I used to follow a lot of YouTube tutorials on how to knit sweaters, scarves, hats, and all of that. And I also used as a library of patterns, I guess I would say, Drops Design website. They have tons and tons of free patterns. So I chose one pattern and I followed it. And this is what I came up with. This is called the Candy Lane. Let me check. Candy? Yeah, this is called the Candy Lane sweater by Drops Design. It's a all-over colorwork sweater. Also on the sleeves, let me show you up close. If you look really close, you can already see many mistakes. This was my first ever colorwork experience and my second ever hand-knitted sweater. And I guess it's pretty good if you consider all of that. But now, 5 years later, and I go back and look at this sweater, I can only see the mistakes. Every time he wears this sweater, I get anxious. And I'm always telling him, let me take this sweater back and I'll give you a second version that it's way better than the first one. He doesn't like that idea. He loves this sweater, or at least this is what he says. I don't know if he's trying to be nice or not. But anyway, the yarn I chose was 100% acrylic from my local craft store. And at the time, I didn't understand fiber content. I didn't know that I didn't like to wear acrylic, and I knew that he wasn't going to hand wash things and all of that. So I just went with acrylic, and it was cheap. It was the color that I wanted, so that's what I went with. Talking about the color work, you can see many mistakes on the color work, like the star here, where here you can see a mistake with the red stitch, and you can also see where I've cut my floats here. You can see some bumps some bumps where I've cut my floats on the wrong side, but I guess it's pretty good if you think of it as this sweater being my first colorwork project. But it turned out way too small. So he asked me for a medium size, and I didn't know what gauge was. I didn't know gauge was a thing. I didn't know it was important to meet gauge if you want to actually end up with a medium size sweater. So I just followed the medium size instructions, chose to knit with the same needles, and this is a DK weight yarn that I chose, and it was way too small. Because, as I found out later on, I am a tight knitter. But not just a tight knitter, I'm an extremely tight knitter. I usually have to go up a millimeter on every project that I knit. So if the pattern says go with a 4 millimeter, I usually have to go with a 5, if not a 5.5 millimeter to get gauge. And even then, most of the times I don't get gauge. He wore this sweater for a long time actually, even it being too small. I guess it's just nice with me anyway. But later on I found out that I could stretch it and block, do a sting block, because this is 100% acrylic. So I did that, and now it's a little bit, well, larger than what it was before. So I guess now he can wear it more comfortably. I think it's still a little bit small, but anyway. Oh, and you can really see my beginning of round here is in the middle of the back, and I didn't know any tricks to make sure it didn't end up with that little gap. Not a gap, but with that little line going down here where you switch colors. But I didn't know what I could do. I hadn't even noticed it when I was working on this sweater. I was so focused on knitting it and not dropping a stitch and not forgetting to switch colors when I was knitting this section here that I didn't even notice the beginning of round was visible. This is my first colorwork experience, and there are so many things that I would change if I were to knit this again. But anyway, this is his sweater now, and I think he's happy with it. So I am happy with it, but in my opinion, this is a huge failed project. That's off to the basket. And now what? Let's go with a shawl to make things different and exciting. So, a few years ago, I bought one of those giant skeins. It's like a cake of yarn that is color changing and it looks really fun. This one that I bought came with 800 meters and I didn't know what to do with it. I had previously knitted a couple of triangle shawls, so I wanted to do something different. And I had a few balls left over from my PetiteKnit sweater, a few balls of the mohair. It wasn't actually mohair, it was Cumulus midnight sole, the same one that I've used to knit my Salty Day sweater. But this one was a different colorway. This is the light blue colorway. I don't really remember the colorway name. I decided to knit a rectangular shawl, but I knitted it sideways, I guess. So that way when I was wearing it, I could see all the color changes and not get one entire color stuck at the back of my neck that I would never see. So that is what I did here. And I've paired that giant cake of yarn with one strand of my midnight sole left over. This is it. And I think it's really cute, actually. I love the colors. It's so easy to pair with a pair of jeans or with a black pair of pants. So I really like to wear this during the winter. And I really love the size. My problem with this shawl is this is a all over stockinette shawl. I almost said sweater. Again, I didn't follow any pattern. I just cast on 400 stitches, I think. Yeah, 400 stitches and started working stockinette flat. But I hadn't considered the curling effect, I guess I can say. With stockinette knitted flat, this shawl curls like crazy. And I've tried doing a wet block, I've tried steam blocking it, and it doesn't work. I still wear this. It bothers me a lot, actually, but I still wear it because I really like the texture and the softness and all of that. But I would prefer if it didn't curl so much. So can you see here? Right now it's not as curled as it usually gets when I'm wearing it because I fold it and I really try to get everything straight when I am folding it to keep it in my closet. So now it is not as curled as it usually is. I've been thinking about sewing the sides together like this and create a tube, like a giant tube. I think from one angle I think it would be a good idea, but from the other side I don't know if it will. It would solve the curling problem, but at the same time, would it be too skinny of a shawl? I don't know. I would create a giant tube and I could also seam the two sides here, but I don't know. I don't know if I prefer this, like a skinny tube, or a wider shawl that curls. I don't know, but this is one of my failed projects and I want to come up with a solution for this. So if you have any suggestions, I would highly appreciate. Anyway, next project is, oh, I already talked about my PetiteKnit sweater, so let's go with that one. Now, this isn't actually a failed project, but this is a top-down raglan sweater all over cable that I love, but oh, that was so silly. I love this sweater. I modified it to have a short row shaping here on the neck. If you want a step-by-step process of how I added short rows, just go to my Ravelry page. I have all the step-by-step process over there. This is it. I would love the fit, the size, everything is good. I love the yarn. I've used Drops Merino Extra Fine paired together with Cumulus Midnight Sole in the colorway light blue. I don't think that's the colorway name, but it's the light blue one. Again, all details are in my wherever notes, so it's over there in case you want to check it out. But anyway, my only complaint about this project is I wish I had knitted my sleeves a little bit longer. So I wish I had stopped my cables here where the sleeve actually ends, and then knitted my 4 or 5 centimeters of twisted rib. Yeah, I still have yarn left over, so I guess I could go back and add a bit of fabric to the sleeves, but do I want to do that? No. Do I want to rip all this Italian bind off and then twisted rib to go back here and add fabric? Nope. Do I want to do a bit of sweater surgery and just cut my yarn here, put it on 2 pairs of needles, add a little bit of fabric and then sew it together? Also no. Do I want fabric to magically appear on my sleeves? Oh yeah. Maybe one day I will go back and add a little bit of length, but today is not the day. Nope. No, it isn't. When I wear this, I have a watch here, and when I wear this sweater, it ends almost where my watch is, and I get almost that bracelet length sleeve that I don't really like. I'm always tugging on my sleeves to make it longer, and I hold it with my fingers like this, and when I stretch out my arms, the sleeve rides up a little bit. Oh, it's a whole thing. Wearing this sweater makes me stressed. But at the same time, I love this, and I still wear this a ton when it's cold outside. This is my Arctic Light sweater. This is not a failed project by any means, but I wish I had done longer sleeves. But this is what I have. Now, let's go with another project from my early days of knitting. And this is what I called, where's the back? Here. This is what I call the Sunny Vibes tee. This has no pattern. I saw the stitch pattern, a tutorial for this stitch pattern online, and I decided to create a project using this stitch pattern, and this is what I came up with. In my opinion, this is really, really cute. I think this is called a feather and fan stitch, maybe. I think this is a feather and fan, but I'm not really sure on the name, but I modified it a little bit to remove the little holes from the feather and fan stitch. So this is what I came up with. It took me 3 days to figure out how to remove all the holes. I had 6 months worth of experience with knitting. So yeah, I'm just saying, just putting it out there. I knitted this bottom up flat. Is it flat? Yeah, I've knitted this bottom up flat because this was prior to me finding out circular needles in fact existed. So I knitted this flat bottom up, and I did a ton of short row shaping here to get the sleeves. The sleeves are also knitted bottom up, and I seamed it all together. So this is what I have. It is a boat neck, and in my opinion this is quite good, especially if you consider this being my 6th project or something like that. But this is 100% cotton yarn. It's the same yarn that I've used to knit one of the PetiteKnit bow, December bow here. The one on top, the orange one, is the same yarn. I used the leftovers to knit the December bow. And where was I? Oh, yeah. So this is worsted weight cotton. I don't know when I can wear this because the fabric is too heavy, too thick to wear when it's really warm outside in the thick of summer, but at the same time it's too cold of a tee, I guess I could say, to wear during winter or even autumn or spring. So yeah, but well, the biggest problem is it came out smaller than what I hoped for because, again, I didn't know gauge was a thing. I didn't know I had to be mindful of my stitch gauge. So anyway, this is way smaller, but at the same time it is so cute and it's such a huge accomplishment in my knitting journey that I don't want to give this away. I want to save this and look at it from time to time. This is what I call my Sunny Vibes tee. And what next? Oh, let's go with the blanket. So this is a fun one. A few years ago, I saw a sweater at the store window that I wanted to recreate. But like I said, I didn't know anything about fiber content and none of that, basically. So I bought 4 different colors of cotton yarn to recreate the sweater that I saw at the store window. And moral of the story, the sweater is one of my failed projects. I did cast it on and it is one of my failed projects that I will talk about next. But I had leftovers and I had a ton of cotton yarn in my stash that I had no idea what to do with. So I decided to knit a blanket. This is my Excavation blanket by Jana Pihota. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, so I'm sorry for that, but it will be linked down below. And like I said, I used 100% cotton yarn, fingering weight, held single in many different colorways. But here's the thing. Why did I think of knitting a cotton blanket? Hand knitted blanket. I have no idea. And I wanted a really big one to have it by the couch when it's cold, especially on those summer nights that gets a little bit chilly. That's what I did. And this blanket has tassels here. So I did my tassels on the length side instead of width, because it drives me crazy to have these tassels next to my neck here or my nose. But like I said, I wanted a really big blanket to be really comfortable by the couch. So this was initially a single twin size blanket, but this is all over cotton. So this thing is so heavy. This weighs almost 3 kilos. It is almost 3 kilos. So it stretches like crazy. So I guess now this blanket's more like a double bed size. Something like that. I still use this quite a lot. It is quite comfortable, but it's so heavy that it stretches a lot. Maybe that is an advantage. I have the work of knitting a single twin size blanket, but I can end up with a double. Yeah, this is a sort of like failed project because I wouldn't go with cotton yarn for my next blanket. But this is what I did at the time before I understood a little bit more of knitting. But we live and we learn, all right? Let me get a sip of water. Let's go with a hat. So I have 2 hats here. This is a brioche hat. And this one is a cute stitch pattern that I followed the YouTube tutorial for. The same thing as the other tee that I showed you, the Sunny Vibes tee. So I have these 2 hats. This is brioche, one color brioche. And this is this stitch pattern that you see here. And I added a cute pom-pom. And this one, I even added a lining here to make it warmer during winter. With the pink one, I didn't. It's just brioche. So, what's the problem with these 2 hats? This one is way too small. Like always. This one is way too small. I tried buying another skein to frog this and cast on with more stitches to make it bigger, but they don't sell this yarn anymore. This is just a wool yarn, acrylic yarn, something like that, from my local craft store. So yeah, I wouldn't actually purchase this yarn again if not for another one of these to make it wearable, because the way it is now, I can't wear it. It rides up here every time I move my head. It is not wearable. So this is another project that it's waiting for my niece to get old enough to wear this. And the pink one, well, I got a bit traumatized by the hat that I just showed you. That I knitted this, I needed a few extra centimeters to make sure that it wasn't going to be too short. So I added a couple of centimeters. And the problem with this hat is it is way too long. I think I overcompensated and now this is way too long. So the fit is funny because my head ends around here. So I have this dingly thing, not the pompon, but the last, 5 centimeters of the head. I feel like an oracle. You know that oracle from Indiana Jones? The glass head with a giant thing over here? Yeah, that's what I feel like when I wear this hat. Now, I talked about the sweater that I wanted to recreate from the store window, and here it is. This is the Birch Pullover by Andrea Mowry. This is a top-down raglan construction all over half fisherman's rib, and I added this cute stripe thing here, and this is 100% cotton yarn. And I really love this sweater. I modified it to have a folded over collar, also in half fisherman's rib. I skipped all the ribbing, so it is like this. And I really love this, but it is way too small. Again, this was before I understood how gauge actually worked. And so yeah, this is from my early days of knitting, but it is so cute. I've been trying to recreate this sweater ever since I knitted this one, because this one is so small that I've never worn it. So I've been wanting to recreate, like knit a second iteration of the Birch Pullover, but it's been so hard to find the yarn that I have in mind, like the colors, I mean. I want a dark pink for this lighter pink here, and a even darker pink for this second pink stripe here. And it's been so hard to find the colors that I have in mind. I think I bought yarn for this project, 3 times now? And none of the options that I chose worked. So I repurposed the yarns. I have another yarn in mind, and I think this is going to be my last try buy yarn for a Birch Pullover with this look in mind. But we'll see, I think this one will work, but we'll see. I plan on casting this on during fall or maybe winter of this year, but time will tell if my plans will work or not. But we'll see. Now, I said I had a pair of socks, and I do. This is sort of like my first pair of socks. I don't consider the cotton yarn my first attempt of sock knitting, because I had no idea what I was doing, and I still didn't know what I was doing when I knitted this pair of socks. So I had so much of this color changing yarn here left over that I decided to cast on a sock. I also had this gray yarn left over. This is long yarn Yavol, I think. And this is what I followed. This is the Trusty toe up socks pattern. And like I said, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know socks needed negative ease. So this one, I think it's 0 ease. It's way too large on my feet. The fit is terrible. After a few minutes of wearing the socks, it slides right off my feet. So I don't really consider this my first pair of socks, because it wouldn't be fair with my knitting. I don't think it would. I just finished what I like to call my first pair of socks. I finished the Cuff Club Volume 1 January chart, and that one is way cuter. than this one, and the fit, at least for now, and I dropped my sock, and the fit, at least for now, it's pretty good. This is what I have, and this is big. I went with sporty stripes here to, I don't know, I was trying different techniques. So this is what I have. It's cute, I guess, but they are just too big. Anyway, now my basket here is getting full, but I still have 3 more projects. So let's go with what? I think this is one of the first sweaters that I've knitted. I think I've knitted this right after I finished the color work Christmas sweater. But anyway, this is what I call the spray sweater. This is also one of those YouTube tutorial patterns that I followed. And I like the yarn. It is way cute, I think. It is a top-down raglan sweater in stockinette. Nothing fancy. But the yarn is, I think it's worsted weight or DK weight yarn. This was prior to me realizing that I actually enjoy knitting with fingering weight yarn more than I do with heavier weight yarns. This is, I think it's also acrylic yarn. So I don't really like to wear this because I get so hot when I wear acrylic yarn that I can feel sweat. I can feel sweat rolling down my back, and yeah, no, not a good thing. But this is what I have, and this is actually my second in the iteration of the sweater from the YouTube tutorial, because the first one that I've knitted came out way too big. Like really big. I think you could fit 2 of me inside that sweater. So I frogged it and knitted a second one. And this size is actually pretty good. It is a good fit. My only problem with the sweater, aside from being acrylic yarn, is it has no short row shaping. So the front of the neck here, it goes up my neck like vertically, and I don't like anything around this area here. It's not a good thing. I don't like the fit. It makes me nervous to have anything here. So yeah, this is also a no-go. I don't really like to wear this, but it's one of the first things that I've ever knitted, so I still have it. And the same thing happened with this one. This is the Follow the Fjord sweater, also from from Drops Design, and it is also a 100% acrylic yarn, but it has this cute stitch pattern here. But again, the same thing. I don't like to wear this because this is acrylic yarn, but I guess knitting wise, I think it's pretty good. But what I don't like, again, this has no short row shaping, so I don't really like the fit. But at the same time, I don't even mind it not wearing the sweater because of the yarn that I chose. So this is one of my failed projects. Another one, actually. Now, the last project that I have is what I call this, Ridley, something like that, hat. I don't think I followed a pattern for this hat. I think oh no, I know, now I know. I have a stitch pattern book, and one of the colorwork stitch patterns was this one, and I just wanted to incorporate that in something that I could wear. And this is what I came up with. It is a 2x2 rib with this cute colorwork pattern. This was my second time knitting colorwork, I think. I am almost certain this is true, but this is what I did. And it has a really big pom-pom here. I don't really like pom-poms anymore, but this is what I did at the time. And I think it's way cute, but when I was working on the colorwork section, I was worried I didn't have enough colorwork fabric. So therefore I wouldn't be able to really see the stitch pattern. So I decided to knit a few more rows. And now this hat is too long. Like the brioche hat, they have the same problem. I still wear this sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I do. But yeah, this is it. But so the fit is weird because I just have too much fabric, and yeah, this is what I have. So I guess those are all the projects that I had to show you today. And I had so much fun filming this video. If you want to share with me your failed projects, I would love to know and chat with you down in the comments below. So thank you so much for watching. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, give it a like, and ring the bell. It makes me really happy. I really appreciate. And I post regular podcast episodes here on the channel every 2 weeks, talking about all the projects that I'm working at the moment and my plans for the future. And usually I don't have so many failed projects. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!